Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us at today's conference. Next up, we are going to talk about why Marie feels that UX unicorns are a myth, and she's going to talk about career switching for a journey to UX. Marie-Aude Ramos is a UX researcher based in Switzerland, a career switcher, a UX community builder, and the founder of User Wizard, a UX career mentoring program. She transitioned to UX after over a decade of experience in the fields of customer management and marketing within different industries. She and the User Wizard team encourage career switchers to develop their UX careers by building upon their unique assets while consolidating their UX skills with the support of their mentor. All right, Marie, I'm going to mute myself and give you the floor. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks for the intro, and hi everyone. I'm really happy to be here tonight. As you heard from my intro, I'd like to introduce myself again. I'm Marie. I'm French, as you can hear, and I'm a UX researcher in Zurich, in Switzerland. I started my career actually in the hospitality. So I'm a career switcher to UX. I studied applied foreign languages in France and started working in the hospitality and had a 10 years career in this field before moving to customer management career and marketing within a web startup in Zurich. And that's where I basically went on for a master's degree in web localization, and I discovered UX. And I transitioned into UX like 4 years ago. And that's when I built the UX Research Guild, a meetup for UX researchers in Zurich. And a year ago, I launched User Wizard, UX career mentoring program for people who, like me, transition to UX or are trying to transition to UX, and those who are looking forward to grow basically and to get to the next career step. So my experience as a career switcher has been really fundamental to my whole career so far. And if there is one thing I learned over the last decade and 2 decades actually, is that there is no really a shortcut to a career transition. So no matter how much you work on it, no matter what kind of degree you do, or no matter what career it is, from the 2 career transition I went through, I can say that there is no shortcut. But what there is indeed is a few milestones that you want to hit, and to do it gradually and to get there where you want to be. So at User Wizard, we have created a program that goes around those lines. From our experience and the practice we had of career transition, starting with an assessment of your skills, the learning path, the practice path, the time where you're gonna apply and enter the job market, and grow, which is when you will basically try to reach the next step in your career. Along those lines, these are the learnings I gained. And the first learning is that you should own your journey. What I mean by that is that no matter where you come from and what led you to UX or to the new industry you're trying to enter, you should basically embrace your past and make sure that you absolutely own what led you there. What it could translate to, if you look at this, this is basically a word cloud of the different keyword you could find, for instance, in my LinkedIn profile. So what you will find here are, of course, my studies, the languages I studied and I speak, the few topics I covered, the different industries and places where I worked and studies, and of course, very many different skills that if you look at them like that, you won't necessarily find the golden thread or understand how that relate anyhow to UX. And that was also the first difficulty I encountered. As I transitioned from the hotel industry to marketing and customer management and then to UX, the main question I had, or I was asked, is what led you there? How come you arrive here, and why do you think you can make it? And I think that's the very first question you should start with if you're engaging into career transition to UX also, because, well, we know from UX that you usually often start with why, but you should be able to do the same with yourself, and by basically defining why do you want to get there and what leads you to UX. So it doesn't really matter where you come from, what you studied, or what you had for a career before. And you can't really expect someone to find these golden thread for you. It's really a form of introspection, and you should be able to answer it yourself and say, okay, what is my motivation? What do I find in this industry, in UX, that fits my expectations, my values? What leads me there? Why does it make totally sense that, given the studies I have, or the degrees, or the career path I have, that I arrive in this specific industry? Along these lines, you also want to define what are the transferable skills that you have. So that will be, for instance, if I go back to my own experience, stakeholder management, or customer management and front office in the hospitality was, for instance, a really great place to develop empathy, compassion, organizational skills, contact, whatever. Find out what is it, what you bring to the table, what you can transfer. So while you should not say, because I did A, I know I can do B, but maybe identify what is it within the UX industry and within the job the profession you want to embrace within the UX industry. What are the skills you can transfer, you have already developed in some way? But an important question is also to ask yourself, what will it take to get there, and to be very, very clear about what do I need to complement, to get, to learn in order to get into this career that I'm expecting or that I want to develop. This is more about being also very conscious of the path. Basically, the transition is literally the first step, right, of your journey. And it will take a lot of courage and motivation to embrace a new career and to start from scratch. So for instance, if you've been a manager before, you can't expect one-to-one to start as a manager. That was my case, for instance. And I really had to ask myself, for many reasons, are you ready to start from scratch again? Are you ready maybe to lose half of your salary and to start in an internship or in a step-in program, which was my case when I started in UX? And if so, what do you gain and what do you aim at? So once you have answered these three really important questions and you know where you go, what is your luggage, what you take with, and which transport you want to take to travel into this new destination, you know what are your assets and what you can build upon. And that's really essential, because that's gonna be your golden thread throughout your transition process. And that's gonna be also what you will be able to pitch and to present. Another learning is that the path will be treacherous. It won't be easy. There is nothing like a shortcut, as I said before, and there is nothing like a very straightforward path. Each experience is unique, and that's really important that you learn that from the beginning, you're going to have to create your own path there. But this being said, the path has been paved before by other people. And that was for me a really, really big surprise within the field of UX and within UX research, for instance, when I realized that most researchers out there came somehow from another industry. Like there is not the one and only path to UX. And once you learn that, it also makes it much easier for you to accept that this is a step-by-step journey, and the same path they took will be a path that you will have to take for yourself. So while considering that you have to acknowledge your strengths, you can follow somehow patterns that have been successful before. What I mean concretely by that is that for me, a real big thing was to find a mentor, find someone who could be my guide on this journey. So I really love the image of travel, because for me, the transition journey is really like onboarding on new or towards new destination, right, in your career. And the mentor is a little bit like the guide. Imagine if you're discovering a new country or a new continent, and you want to have someone who will not do or plan your whole journey day by day, but guide you somehow and tell you, look, this is a great destination, or this is a pitfall, you need to do that, or you shouldn't miss on it. This is exactly the way I imagine a mentor. It's not a teacher nor someone who will get you a job, but way more someone who will accompany you on your journey. But that's also, and it was my case, someone who will make your practice more impactful. For instance, I was working full-time as I was transitioning, and I was also freshly mom, and I couldn't afford having a full-time study. So I would study online. And the issue that I encountered was, for instance, that my work was peer reviewed. So I was never really quite secure about, okay, am I on the right way? And having a mentor who would help me review my work and give me constructive and unbiased feedback on my work really helped me grow my practical skills really quickly. And all in one, a mentor is a person who will help you, really giving a great boost to your career. We often hear that experience cannot be taught, but it can be learned, as in avoiding the pitfalls or learning from the best practices out there. It will definitely not make your path quicker or smaller or shorter, but it will definitely make it easier. Another learning was that no matter what you study and how many degrees or certificates you get, this is just like a key that will help you entering the field, and that will be useful when you will, for instance, apply for a job. It's definitely beneficial, and it will also be a snapshot of your foundational knowledge at a certain point of your journey. But what you will be actually judged on are your abilities, and the best way you have to prove those are really to invest into your practical skills, which means basically do not rely on the certificate and think, oh, I passed, so I know I can do it, because the reality is really different. The process you learn and you study will not necessarily apply one-to-one. Every team, company, context will be different. And that's why it's really, really crucial for you to get some first contact with the reality. And I remember when I was transitioning, I was like, I can't get the job because I do not have the experience, and I can't get the experience because I can't get the job. And we all know this vicious cycle. But now, from the point where I'm standing right now, I do understand why the practical experience is so important. So while you can't get maybe the job, you may have the possibility to work on your practical skills in some way. And I would really, really encourage you to do that. This is really the best you can do. It will also help you build your confidence so that once you arrive on the job market or within the company that's going to hire you, you will feel way more confident working on real life projects. So, all in one, being critical about the decisions you take will be super relevant, because as a switcher, you're probably very naive about the market. And as anyone who has a really, really great motivation to enter, you try really to make your best, to be more employable, to be more desirable, and to do basically the right thing. This could be also a pitfall, and that's why I would really recommend you to be very, very aware of typical pitfalls and to basically keep your focus on your goal. Concretely, what I mean through that is that I transitioned into UX research. Obviously, as I studied UX, there was a moment where I was considering UX design, and I found out for myself, no, research it is, where I'm really good, and that's what I would like to do. Now, when transitioning and applying, I had countless HRs, recruiters telling me I should design. I should, for instance, learn this program or that program. And it is very easy in that moment where you're very vulnerable to believe it and to say, oh my God, I'm nowhere near to my goal and I need to diversify my portfolio and I need to do this and that. This is absolutely not necessary. And that's again where having a mentor by my side really helped me to keep my focus, study and understand the market, and move forward step by step towards the goal that I have set for myself. And that leads us to my third learning. Job description are not reliable. That's where the UX unicorns are made come from. That's something I made to my motto. It's so important to be very aware of the fact that most UX job offers, and I can speak at least for the market I know here in Europe, are not realistic. So just from experience, a typical example, you apply for a job as a UX researcher and you will be asked not only design and research, but also to code and probably to do some agile project management on the side. If you get this kind of job offers, run, because this is nothing close to a positive experience for you. First, it can make you feel like you are not at the right place or you're not even close to reach your goal. And you see your goal basically going further and further with every single pitfall like that. And second, even if you were to actually try to learn a bit of everything, you would end up being like more or less okay in many different things, but not really good at the one thing. And think of the job market from the perspective of the employer or the company. Would you really like to stand out? Or would you like to be one of many candidates who have average profile and know a little bit of everything? Or do you think that you may have more chances if you stand out? So obviously it's a highly leading questions I'm asking here, but really my experience told me that it is worth investing in your expertise, build this expertise, and that's what I mentioned in the beginning. Try as much as possible to set a goal and work towards it, and to make sure that you're going to develop your expertise and be really, really good at something. And to develop basically what I would call, in the branding perspective, your USPs, like your unique selling points. Because at the end of the day, you want to create the brand of yourself. And when you're gonna enter the job market, when you're gonna pitch your profile, one of the first questions you will hear is, tell me about yourself, or tell me what led you to us, to the company, or even to this industry. And that's why it's really important to know your golden thread and to own your journey. Because if at this moment you're not able to pitch your profile and to say, look, because I studied that and I worked in that and I did this and that and gained that and that experience, it just obviously makes sense that I'm standing in front of you here today and that you're going to hire me. So it's all about not building up an image of yourself, but knowing what makes you unique on this market, being absolutely secure of your abilities, and being able also to present them so that your future boss cannot think of anything else but hiring you. Lesson number 4, be strategic. So that's really something that echoes with my whole career, from the very beginning to where I am here today. Think of such a game where you are moving one piece after the other, and you need to have a clear plan of where you are doing. And based on this strategy, you will define your learning paths, you will define your strengths and weaknesses, and you will also work towards it. But this being said, don't rush. It's really essential that you take your time to get there, and that literally you enjoy the journey. I totally understand the position of being super unhappy in your job and willing to change ASAP for many different reasons. And of course, you would like to enter the field of UX as soon as possible, but try as much as possible to take the steps as they are needed. One of the few steps that I summarize for myself, my experience, is that you're going to have to set your goals and work systematically towards them, and take the time also to grow your knowledge base. This is essential, and I'm not talking only about certificates or foundational knowledge that we get through a degree, for instance, which is absolutely fine, but it's about having a few bookmarks, maybe physical library, podcast, blog, publications. It doesn't really matter how you learn, but it's more important to keep on learning and to have a few references and places where you know that you're gonna be able to find the answers to your question, and to also develop this ability to keep on learning. Another really great booster for your transition journey is to join a UX community. That's why I created the UX Research Guild locally when I started, because that was exactly that what I was missing. And I realized over the last 2 years that it's been also very, very welcome by UXers here in Zurich, because having a community is more than having people who do the same job as you, is having people you can rely on, you can exchange, you can grow together. And this ability to grow together is really a booster for your career. So taking the time to be strategic about your transition journey is basically making you win time in the future. It's investing in the right place, in the right moment. Once you have completed these few steps and you're somewhere where you feel comfortable, where you feel like you're ready to embrace your career and to start working somewhere, take a time to, if you can, be picky about the place. I know it's not easy. It's absolutely not easy, and nothing is written in stone. And if you pick the wrong place, this doesn't mean that your career is ended, by far not. But it's really important, if you have the choice, to try to pick the right environment, the place where not only you will be able to put into practice what you learn, but also really literally to open your wings and to develop. Because the right environment will push you and will help you grow quickly, really. But in an environment where you're not well managed, supported, mentored, not only you will have a really hard time, but you will not grow. And I know the effort you put in a career transition. I would say that you put way more effort when you transition career as when you sliding into your first career, obviously. And you don't want to do all that to be in a place where you won't be able to grow afterwards. So last and not least, my maybe most impactful lesson was to remember that it's a lifelong learning. I told you before, build your knowledge base and keep on building your community and your network, which will be a great asset too for your career later. But stay curious, never stop learning, and no matter in which way you learn within your community, by reading, by taking another class, just by being curious and seeing what happens on the market, it will really help you to develop, to access this step where you do not transition anymore, but where you grow, and you can grow exponentially. It's also important that you do not consider that you entered this path now and there is just a one way. I mean, you could evolve in your career. That's okay. You don't want to have it all, but you want to be able to grow. That was it. Thank you very much. And if you have any question, or if you'd like maybe to follow up on this conversation, feel free to reach out to me. Love you to see you in the meetups or in any of our events at the User Wizard.
All right. Well, thank you for that presentation. Yeah, life is a nonstop learning journey. I run a book club every Monday where we just keep going through UX book after UX book all together. So I'd love to see some of you guys sometimes for that. We're going through Think Like a UX Researcher right now, which a lot of you could relate to. Do we have any questions for our host? Anything about career transitioning, some things to look out for along the way, some ways to prove the things we learned? All right, so I do see a question popping up. It says, what are some things that you should look for in job descriptions? From Kia.
Something I would recommend looking for in job description is basically, is it a realistic description? Or again, I mean, I can take, for instance, the example of my field, right? I mean, when I see that a UX researcher is required to know XYZ design tool and be an agile expert and code a little bit on the side, these are kind of the red flags when I'm like, okay, the person who wrote the job description has literally no idea of my work. And it's not a great start, really. So it's likely that the HR that's going to screen your CV has not much of an understanding of UX, unfortunately, but they should be able to have a proper job description at the very least. So beware of totally non-realistic requirements. And if you have to reach out to someone in the company and ask them, or check on LinkedIn, what do they have for structure? Do they have a proper UX team, for instance? Or will you be the UX team of one? Not always for sure that's a great start, really.
Mm-hmm. We have another question from Irina. Irina asks, any tips on starting a local community? Where do we start?
Oh, sure. It's easy as one can think, basically. So I started the local community on Meetup, and I literally just started by creating the group with a former colleague of mine. We were working in the same team. We started with the UX research skills framework, but it could be literally with any single topic you'd like related to your field, obviously. And it starts very quickly. There is a huge need in the UX community to gather and to share. And people, that's something I didn't mention, that's really essential. People are super welcoming. So start as simple as you can. Get one speaker who's happy to share something, and go online, post this on Meetup or any other group that you find, and just enjoy. Have fun, I'd say.
All right. I mean, and of course, you could also partner with another organization and be like a child local chapter. Like I know Interaction Design Foundation has a whole bunch of local chapters. You may find out they don't have one in your area and maybe talk with them and see if you could start up a local chapter. Any other questions, folks? Oh my gosh, what's going on down here? Oh, all right. So, oh wait, we have another question from Kia. It says, to follow up, what are some realistic things that are in a UX researcher position?
Realistic. Well, I guess that realistically, one can expect from you that you have some foundational knowledge of mixed methods, for instance, and depending on the level that is requested, certain amount of years of experience. One of the things, for instance, that would be totally unrealistic to have a junior with 5 years of experience, typically. So, you may want just to narrow down what is realistic at your career stage, for instance, and see what are the skills that are required to start, like foundational knowledge of UX, of design principles, of research methodology are absolutely welcome. When it comes to anything around UX research, you should have foundational knowledge of wireframing, for instance, but if you're asked to do HiFi prototypes, nope. Actually, as a researcher, you barely ever do any kind of prototype. So there is a difference really between what you may know or have touched and what you're required to do.
All right, thank you. And we do have another question. Oh, the questions are rolling in. It says, what did you feel were some of the low points in your journey, and how were you able to overcome those situations? Oh, that's an interesting question. I didn't ask it. Aditya would like some input on that.
So first, I had quite a few of them. So I was just showing you here the learnings, but these learnings came obviously from a lot of pitfalls and a lot of fails. Look, I had starting from a teacher who told me that I would basically never make it into UX, to in my first gig having a boss who told me that literally my heart was burning too much for users, and which was basically putting me in a uncomfortable situation that I had to push back on his expectations. Or so the thing is that you need a lot of grit to stay in this field, and you will take so many pushbacks. And this is really about not being arrogant and being able to question and really to say, okay, was I right? Was I biased? Was I not understanding the business needs, for instance, or may I have made a mistake? But being true to yourself and being able also to stand your ground and to say, look, this is the right thing to do. You can ignore my findings, for instance, that's not in my decision, but to the best of my knowledge and abilities, this is what I can give you. So pitfalls are full of them, from missed interviews to really being really bad in a design challenge or in an interview, to having really bad feedback from a stakeholder. Just learn from them. The way I overcame them is basically having this strategy and having this goal in front of my eyes and saying, okay, what can I learn from that? What can I take? I know it sounds difficult, but it's okay to be really down for a little while and then to say, okay, what can I take from that? There must be something positive, even if it is to get a harder skin. So take that and move on, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think partly it goes with the career field we chose. Some of us tend to be more sensitive than some other folks. You know, we open ourselves up and we can feel a little vulnerable. I understate things. Vulnerable sometimes when things don't go our way. And, you know, if you get knocked over, you know, you will get yourself back up.
And that's why the community is a really, 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 really welcoming thing. Do find a community, because everyone, and at every single stage of your journey, everyone went through that. And it's really great to have the possibility to go and just cry on the shoulder of another UXler and say, look, that really put me down for a little while. And you will see that 10, 20, 30 people will tell you, same here. So it doesn't make it better. It should probably not happen, but it will. And you know that you have some people who can literally empathize with you there.
I gotcha. Yeah, I know Debbie has her Slack group. I mean, I've got my book club where we do relate some things. I know there's design buddies, students of UXD. So there are some great communities out there, so that, yeah, you are not alone. That's an important thing to remember in this whole thing, that there are people out there that if you do reach out for help, that this is a very, you know, supportive, dare I say, loving community where there's a lot of people who genuinely will try to help you out. So if you feel like you're alone, you can probably find some comfort in some of these groups to help you along your way. Also, tons of mentors through various websites. Would you like to tell them a little bit more about User Wizard and how that works with mentoring?
Absolutely, yeah. We have currently roughly 20 mentors in our program, and basically I work with mentors internationally from different fields within the UX industry. So you will have designers, researchers, writers, UX strategists, leaders, hiring managers, but also recruiters. And in the program, in the User Wizard program, we basically follow these 5 milestones that I presented, which basically go back to the journey that I went through and many others went through. And we start with us assessing your skills, basically going through, we guide you on your learning journey. It's not a learning program, it's really a mentoring program to help you go through your transition journey. And that's really important because we encourage you to find the right learning path for you and find something that is also valuable. So you will definitely get some support in there. You also get feedback on the work you do. As I mentioned, that's really, really important. I mean, differentiate what you learn from how is it assessed. Like the content could be excellent and also the exercise could be excellent, the project you work on, but realistically, someone who is just learning, just like you, cannot give you a proper review on that. That was my experience, and that's why mentors also offer this feedback. And then we guide you step by step towards your goal. So we define the goal together, obviously, and you go all the way up to basically a coaching on interview techniques and application, portfolio, CV review. We cover really the fundamentals of a career transition from the UX perspective, from the recruitment perspective, and we try to summarize that within 5 to 6 months, and the next intake will be in September for the full length program. If you're somewhere in between in this journey, or you just like to have a punctual help, we also offer one-to-one mentoring hours.
All right. So check them out if you need some direction on things. Let me see. I think we've just about got everything here. I think that's a wrap on this. We'll be starting up our next session in 20 minutes. Thank you so much for coming, Marie. And I'll see you around on LinkedIn.
I hope so. And feel free to connect.
Yeah. All right. Farewell.